So the term reactive abuse has long served to distort the reality of trauma responses in survivors of prolonged psychological torture. It implies mutuality or culpability where there is none, subtly reinforcing the narcissistic abuser's smear campaign by reframing the victim's coerced survival responses as evidence of instability or aggression. This linguistic framing plays directly into the abuser's strategy of reputational sabotage, allowing them to provoke, gaslight, degrade, and torment the victim, sometimes for weeks, months, or years, until the inevitable moment of psychological rupture occurs. And then, when the survivor cries out, yells back or breaks something, or collapses emotionally, that very response is used as proof that they're the problem. This is not reactive abuse. It's coerced defense aggression, a legally codifiable trauma response precipitated by sustained psychological warfare. It's not abuse. It's a neurological and survival-based form of self-defense under conditions of chronic psychological captivities. Survivors of narcissistic abuse are often sleep-deprived. They are isolated. They're silenced and validated and neurologically disoriented through techniques that are outlined in the CIA's declassified Kubar Counterintelligence Interrogation Manual, including sensory disorientation, induced dependency, and alternating reward and punishment cycles. Under these conditions, the human psyche fractures. When the survivor eventually responds with resistance, whether it's verbal, physical, or emotional, it's not aggression. It's a coerced, neurological discharge of unspeakable restraint, the culmination of trauma-encoded entrapment and a desperate attempt to reclaim psychological boundaries. In legal and forensic terms, coerced defense aggression must be understood as a byproduct of constructive psychological incapacitation. The abuser designs the circumstances of the outburst by employing relentless coercive control to construct a psychological environment in which the victim is neurologically cornered. When that cornering erupts into a moment of retaliation, it's not evidence of a mutual abuse. It's a result of trauma-encoded dependency, narrative capture, and prolonged reputational isolation. Furthermore, framing this as abuse fails to account for the power asymmetry at the heart of the dynamic. The narcissistic perpetrator is in control, calculating, and self-regulating. The survivor is systematically stripped of autonomy, gaslit into disorientation, and then punished for the inevitable collapse that follows. This pattern mirrors cycles seen in hostage scenarios, psychological operation, and domestic terrorism, fields in which no one calls a hostage to scream a crime. So we must retire the term reactive abuse altogether and replace it with legally precise terminology that reflects both the forensic nature of the trauma and the moral reality of the victim's position. Coerced defense aggression should be formally recognized within legal, clinical, and psychiatric frameworks as a trauma-induced defense mechanism, not as an act of aggression, and certainly not a justification for criminalization, institutionalization, or character defamation. Survivors aren't unstable. They're enduring a form of psychological homicide, engineered to ensure that their cries for help can be used as evidence against them. That's why the Voiceless Justice Act formally codifies coerced defense aggression as a trauma response that shall not be constructed or used as evidence of guilt or mutual abuse in legal proceedings. It is a symptom of criminal psychological entrapment, and its existence only proves the depravity of the system that made it possible.